When we looked at the Aquascaphe Blue Gilt last year, we had high praise for Baltic. They'd simplified what neo vintage looks like in a way that welcomes everyone, casual or veteran. But now an evolution has happened. The Aquascaphe GMT is here, and with it comes one burning question. Have Baltic managed to succeed in its evolution, or have they missed the mark completely? Right about now in our reviews is where we normally break down what the watch offers. But in this case, a lot of the watch is somewhat identical to the Aquascaphe Diver Baltic offer. This is something we looked at last year, so if you'd like to learn more, we'll leave a link to our original review in the description below. Today we're going to focus on what is different from the Diver to this new GMT, and there are 4 key areas to cover here. Now being a GMT, the watch is powered by the Soprod C125 mechanical movement. With 42 hours of power reserve, 28,800 vibrations per hour, and being Swiss, this is a fantastic option for Baltic, as they've moved away from the Miyota movements of previous models. It is worth highlighting though to those hardcore travellers and GMT connoisseurs, that although the GMT hand can be independently set, the local hour hand cannot be independently jumped forwards or backwards. Next is the bezel, which has changed both visually and of course functionally. What was once a unidirectional diving bezel is now a bidirectional 24-hour one. There is still a sapphire insert though, which is the closest modern execution to a Bakelite bezel as seen on historical GMTs. Baltic really had some fun here with the colour options, as there are 3 to choose from. There's blue and grey, a blue and green, and this, the blue and orange. Another small bezel change is the font, which has seen the flat top 4 go, as seen on the diving watch, making way for an open 6. Yes, it is a pretty small difference, but it certainly is one that plays its part. We also see a fully loomed bezel, which is essentially a torch on the wrist. As we move to the dial, we find that the handset has remained the same, however they're no longer flat, but now chamfered, which results in greater visibility and also some added depth to the watch. Once again, only a small change, but enough positive small changes can have a huge impact and create a great result. Staying with the dial once more, the sunburst and grained finishes as available on the Diver have gone, with a super glossy deep black one in its place. The number 12 still remains, as does the 2 triangles on the left hand and the right hand side of the watch. However, the bottom triangle has been replaced with something far more useful. A matching black date window. The dial is no longer partially a sandwich one either, as the watch looks to introduce a little bit of a modern spin. Any mention of the water resistance rating, which is 100 meters by the way, has been replaced for just GMT on the dial. Nothing more, nothing less. Those 4 key changes aside, everything else remains the same from the Aquascaphe Diver. With a case width of 39mm, a thickness of 13.5mm, and a lug-to-lug just a hair over 47mm, wearability is almost a feature in itself. So to put it bluntly, this watch has completely changed my stance on GMTs. I'll hold my hands up and say previously GMTs never really completely did it for me. Of course I adore how a Bakelite GMT from 1957 looks. I also completely understand how for many they're an incredibly useful complication. But past Tim never really felt a burning desire to add a GMT to his collection. But when this GMT does just so much right, it's difficult to be anything but positive. The new additions on this watch perform brilliantly in the real world. Executing a date window on a watch is no easy feat. A 6 o'clock date position, however, doesn't compromise symmetry or usability. The dial, hands and bezel changes are the real stars of the show here. It's fascinating how just executing certain features correctly can have such an impact on one's overall thoughts on a watch, but it's true. Through smart design choices, Baltic have ended up with a watch that punches above its weight on the wrist. Something I actually wasn't expecting was how modern this GMT feels in person. The colour options are familiar without feeling like it's history repeating itself. If your heart is set on a watch evoking all of those desirable vintage feelings, then the Diver Aquascaphe is for you. If on the other hand you're looking for a usable tool watch that feels more modern than historical, you should consider the GMT. Let's take a look at a few different combinations, as this watch can be massively transformed with just a few straps. To start with, the Dulas vintage leather in light brown is a breath of fresh air to the watch it's fitted on, and in this case, it makes the watch really pop. The orange on the bezel is a similar tone to the light brown seen on the strap, which explains why the end result is just so amazing. Next, we have a strap option that is ideal for those who want to test the capabilities of the Aquascaphe GMT. By now everyone knows the benefits and appeals of a NATO strap, but what makes this the vintage watch company NATO in blue is just how perfectly it matches the blue found on the watch. The Cheswell leather in distressed grey is easily my favourite strap for the GMT. My love for grey straps is well documented, and here it works exceptionally well. The orange and blue found on the bezel are a match made in heaven, but throw in some grey into the mix and it's game set match. We've also picked the Cheswell as the stitching colour is white rather than beige, so it plays off the white coloured loom. Priced at £888 on the metal bracelet, the Aquascaphe GMT feels like an absolute bargain in terms of how far that money can stretch. It's just a £300 premium on the Aquascaphe diver for this mechanical GMT, which is impressively a small increase. Baltic's Evolutionary Changes are spot on. The design has been appropriately updated, the movement is now Swiss, and the watch feels more modern and versatile. You'll notice we don't have a things we would change section for this review, and to be honest that's for good reason. There really isn't anything that stands out as feeling not quite right. It would be nice to see Baltic with a few more metal strap options, but that really doesn't take anything away from the watch. The Aquascaphe GMT is a simple watch. There are no overly aggressive or in-your-face design choices. But simple doesn't mean poor or weak. The next time someone asks me for a first mechanical GMT suggestion, I'm pretty certain this new Aquascaphe is getting a mention. The Baltic Aquascaphe GMT is now available for £888 on the bracelet and £818 on the Tropic rubber. We'd like to thank Baltic for sending their new GMT into us on loan. To find out more, be sure to head over to our full review on the WatchGecko online magazine, as well as the Baltic website. We'll leave some links in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.